I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Yes or no? Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
I had no prior knowledge of the planned assault on Nancy Kerrigan.
I am deeply sorry for my irresponsible and selfish behavior I engaged in.
Hello, everybody. Oops, the podcast here. I'm Francis, joined by Giulio. How are you, G?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
Well, it's been an eventful morning.
Yeah, you've had a crazy 24 hours. What's give us an update.
We lost power in the evening. And when Maine loses power, it's not like when other places lose power. Because when Maine loses power, it grinds the entire state to a halt. It's as if people here enjoy candlelight because nobody wants to fix it. And the lack of power persists for what feels like weeks. It's been almost 24 hours now, and there's no fix. And here's the other problem. Where we live in Freeport, Maine, not only do we not have power, but the Wi-Fi went out. I don't know exactly why. And we don't have cell phone service. Wow. So in order to get any sort of communication or connectivity to the outside world, I had to drive to a nearby town.
It's crazy.
It's as if I'm on horseback.
I'm impressed that you were able to find an enclosed space.
Well, I did a little. Once I drove to the nearby town and got cell phone reception, that's when I was able to call the country club and ask if they had power. They said they did. And so now I'm here in one of their banquet halls that they usually reserve for proms or budget weddings and
quinceañeras at the country club.
Exactly. And I'm looking out over the pool, and just half an hour ago it was filled with children and their parents having lots of fun frolicking. And now it is in that turnover period where every 2 hours a woman comes through with what looks like pesticides and spritzes it all over the chairs and the railings and cleans the entire pool. And then in 15 minutes or so, it will be full of families again.
Crazy.
You have to sign up on an Excel spreadsheet for when you want your pool block.
That's fucking nuts, dude.
Yeah, but what's funny too, dude, is that it's not exactly hard to just delete someone's member number and take their slot. So you could theoretically play bumper cars with pool reservations at my country club.
Dude, I mean, listen, it's really like the Wild West of living right now, and there's a lot of loopholes to be found as things emerge and change.
Yes, exactly. Robbing someone of their country club pool slot, the Wild West of living. Too funny.
Dodgy.
Dude, Maine is crazy, man. They're really, the infrastructure, it just is beyond belief to me. Like, part of me appreciates it. I grew up, I never had cell phone service in my house. Never. Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, never thought it necessary to build cell towers in this area because I just don't think they thought there were enough clients. It wasn't worth their business.
Right.
So my whole life, where we lived, and we don't live, over a mountain and through the woods to grandmother's house we go. We live in a nice town with a good population and a good school district. And, it's not like, not like we're in the woods. I mean, we're in the woods, but it's not barren,
It's not on the Appalachian Trail.
Like, yeah, you could trick or treat here.
Right. That's a good benchmark.
So the fact that and it's still that way to this day. There's just no cell service. So we have to do Wi-Fi calling, and then without Wi-Fi, there's no connectivity. And I don't know. It's just amazing.
So that must have been a big day when you had a cell phone that could use Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Were you in high school still, or no?
Well, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember when that happened. But what really happened was that my whole life I've always given people 2 phone numbers. They have my home phone number and they have my cell phone number.
Gotcha.
But as I've spent less and less time at home, it hasn't been as much of an issue. But, in high school, dude, oh, man, because I have an older sister. And so she's 2 years older than me. And there were a couple years where when I was 15, she was 17. When I was 16, she was 18. We both wanted to be up in our rooms under our comforters speaking to our boyfriend or girlfriend for an hour and a half a night.
Right.
And we're clogging up the home phone. So that was, those were some wars we had.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Yelling upstairs, can you get off the phone?
Yeah, it's my turn.
God.
All right, sorry about that. I started with the volume a little too high, but I think we fixed it now. But the point is, I don't know what the point is.
Well, dude, I got in an altercation again today in public with a woman.
Oh, good.
I was in FedEx, and
Yep.
I was trying to help my girlfriend mail some shit, and it was just, it ended up becoming a bit of a chore. Like I had to go print out a label from FedEx, whatever. And I'm in FedEx, and I print. And then I look to a piece of paper pops out of the printer, and I go to grab it, and I realize it's not my printer. It's the woman next to me's printer. And she just gives me this dirty look. She's like, and then she starts like pointing at mine. And I was like, all right, I'm sorry. Like I made a mistake. I was like, you don't have to be rude. I literally started saying that to her. And then she kind of tried to de-escalate and like ignore me. And I kind of like wouldn't let it go at this point because it was just such annoying behavior by her. And I'm like, I'm not trying to steal your receipt. You think I'm trying to steal your receipt? And I'm like, all right, I'm going to let this go. But then I could not let it go, as very on brand. So when I walked out of the store, I then peered in through the glass until she noticed. And then I walked away. I just wanted to make her have an unpleasant walk home. And last time I told the story like this, I had a couple people message me saying that they were very disappointed in me. And I hope that those same people, feel that this was not as bad as following someone home in a car.
Yeah. You really have it out for women that don't see the world the way that you do, or something.
Dude, it's like we're all sharing these spaces together. I made a mistake. What the fuck could I possibly be doing with your paper? You fucking bitch.
Do you think that there?
Jesus,
do you think that there was a part of her that was upset that you had touched the paper? And now she couldn't touch it or something because of COVID?
Maybe. But it was really, truly an honest mistake. Like, there's a fucking thing of hand sanitizer directly behind us. Like, it didn't need to be an ordeal. But I know that people are tense and stuff, but I wasn't willing to just fully let that go.
Good for you. I'm glad that you peered through the window to terrify her.
I'm glad I did.
You showed her who was boss.
I felt happy about it.
Yeah. Dude, it's funny, man. We've all had strange encounters in public where it's so strange to fight or argue with a stranger.
It's crazy.
Because you don't know how far they're willing to go.
Right.
And your assumption is that at some point, if you can out crazy that person, right?
Or, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It depends if that's what you want to do.
That's my point, though. You don't know.
Right.
You don't know how crazy someone is willing to get.
Right.
And that's what happens with strangers. Whereas, like, with loved ones or friends, you can argue to a point that is so much farther beyond where you would argue with a stranger because you know that they're not going to punch you in the face, or you know that they're not going to like sick their dog on you or something, right?
Exactly. You've already taken their temperature for years, so you completely understand what their limits are.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny? It's funny how like when an altercation is on the horizon, you have to very quickly decide, like you're saying, whether or not that person is willing to go farther than you. And if they are, you have to de-escalate. But you need to decide that based on profiling, which like oftentimes, you know what I mean? Like
you don't know.
It's not something that you can talk about because it happens so quickly. You have to decide, like, this person looks like a wild card.
An easy way to win an argument in the wild is just to start acting crazy.
Totally.
You're going to get that person to walk away if you, like, and we've talked about this, just start, like, peeing your pants and screaming.
Another thing you could do is just pretend to, like, mime giving a blowjob. Just go, and I mean, you're going to have to watch this on video on YouTube to see me doing it, but you just have to start going.
Yeah.
That is like a total de-escalator.
They can't what do you do to that? You can't do that. At worst, someone starts filming you, and then you go viral, and then you can be like, well, I'm a fucking comedian. Like, I was hoping this would go viral, you know?
Right. I was being funny. Sometimes I feel bad about, like, when I see the videos of people pranking people in Walmart. I'm just like, you suck, dude.
That's
that's
bad. Yeah.
It's also interesting because, like, clearly that's some sort of violation of people's rights. Like, so there's no way they're getting release forms.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Dude, I used to watch these. There was this guy that was on YouTube who, I think he was a British kid, blonde kid, who would go around and like prank people. But one of the prank videos he did was like he just tried to make out with women.
Isn't that assault?
And yeah, I mean, that's what it was. And it was like he would kind of tip them off beforehand and say like, you look so beautiful or something. And it was surprising how many more women actually ended up making out with him than you would have thought. Many of them sort of pushed him away. But looking back, it was a horrific video.
Dude, this sounds but like I've watched I've spent a lot of time in Italy during my life because I have a ton of family that lives there. And like they have prank shows that they play in syndication in those European countries. And a lot of the time, like the pranks are definitely more fucked up than things that we could get away with here. People are just more like laid back, I guess. You said this guy was British, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude,
or Australian maybe. Yeah.
Dude, I was on an extremely random flight. I flew on Azerbaijan Airlines to Turkey. Sorry. To Azerbaijan from Russia. I was escaping Russia when I got stuck in Russia. And they were playing these old TV shows. Like, remember on an old plane? I think
you've told us this before.
Yeah,
you've alluded to it. Yeah.
I did, but we cut it. I remember specifically.
Okay.
But, dude, they played this, like, French prank show. And there was a lot of weird, like, sexual pranks.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Which was, like... And it was weird. I was like, how are they allowed to do this? But again, I guess it's just completely different. Like people are much more laid back. Absolutely.
Laid back is one way to put it. Or, another way is like that women have not been liberated to the degree there, which is sad. That's just sad.
Oh, they're more laid back.
Yeah, they're so much more laid back. You could pull a woman's skirt down in Paris and they get it.
That's hilarious, dude. Louis Katz, you know that comedian Louis Katz?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great guy. He was telling me that in Brazil, and I don't know if he just made this up. By the way, this guy Louis Katz made one of the most impressive comedic projects I've ever witnessed. He made an entire hip hop music video in Portuguese. And he's not like a native Portuguese speaker. He learned it being in Brazil.
Wow.
I'll show it to you. It's crazy.
Okay. But
he says that when you're out at a bar in Brazil, if you like lock eyes across the bar, it is not unusual to just go up to that person and start making out with them.
I think I've heard this, that in Brazil, the groping and the men are just so aggressive and so indifferent to personal space and all of that. And I don't think that sounds fun at all. I wouldn't, because here's the thing, dude. All right. Like if that's the speed at which things are operating over there, I can't compete with that because I don't have that in me. Right.
Same.
So I'm not going to go to a bar and just do what the locals do and start, grabbing butt cheeks. That's just not how I'm wired.
Dude, totally. And I have no problem admitting that. And it's funny. I feel like every once in a while, if we get negative comments on Instagram, people will call us like pussies, which is like pretty funny because, to some degree, you could argue that. Like, we're not going to just go and grab someone's vagina in public. Like, neither of us are doing that.
Exactly.
And if that makes us beta males, then like keep grabbing pussies, dudes. Whoever's
yeah. If I feel like, the opposite of assertive is respectful. You know what I mean? Is that really so bad?
Oh, you wuss. Dude, no, I'm just being like a reasonable individual.
No, abiding by sexual harassment seminars that I took at various jobs I've had. Those lessons stuck. I'm sorry you forgot them.
Dude, that's funny. Did I ever tell you this? I did one of the videos for a company's sexual harassment.
Doesn't surprise me at all. Doesn't surprise me.
I could pay like $600 or something. And dude, the video was insane. Like they had to, I'm like not supposed to share it, but I probably could. I have a screen recording of it.
Mhm.
But dude, it's the script was crazy. The girl was like, Jake, I've heard that Corey was my name. She goes, Corey, I've heard that you've been sharing photos of our time at the beach last summer. And I'm like, well, you have to admit, you were super hot back then. Like, dude,
Oh,
it's,
shit.
dude, it's crazy. And then she's like, Corey, stop it. And I'm like, well, shoot, you don't got to be so nasty about it. Dude, really, really. Like, dude, I think that like one of the ladies who just works at the company wrote the script. Like, it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever acted in my life.
You know, it's funny because we talked about Ellen on the last episode, and the term microaggression came up a bunch about the workplace there. And microaggression is a term where I feel like 5 years ago, a lot of people might have scoffed at that and said, well, this is just people being soft. Microaggression. What is a microaggression?
Right.
You know, who can say it's just silly, right? But then the examples they gave of what are called microaggressions at the Ellen workplace were so legitimate to me that I was surprised that they were even calling them microaggressions.
They just sounded like aggressions.
They just sounded, yeah, like asshole shit.
Right.
You know, just don't be an asshole. Like it had to do with like I think there were two black employees who had a similar haircut, and then one of the white employees or a producer was like, "Now we're not going to be able to tell you two apart."
Oh God.
And it's like, well, yeah, dude, you can't fucking say that. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's you got.
I don't think that's there's nothing microaggressive about that. That's just totally don't be a moron.
Yeah. Dude, there's something that just sounds like too. That's the thing. It's like that just sounds to me like, and it could have been innocent or not, but you have to really make an effort to stay in touch with what's appropriate and what's not, because like that's a makeable mistake.
Mm-hmm.
To be like, oh, you guys, like that's obviously not okay to say, but it just sounds like a dad joke, like a dad who's hit the age where his filter has evaporated,
right,
and just like doesn't know what's appropriate or not, and like it's crucial today to stay in touch with what's okay and what isn't okay.
Dude, did you watch the Jim Jeffries new special on Netflix?
No, is it great?
Well, I didn't watch all of it, but I do love him. I'll probably finish it. From what I saw, it was pretty solid. And he talks about his dad, you know, who's older, obviously, and how his dad kind of came on board with gay rights and gay marriage, even though he grew up in a time when everyone was pretty against that. Grew up in Australia for whatever reason. Just that's how he the world he lived in was against it, and how now it has become known among his friend group thanks to a joke that Jim was doing that his dad is okay with this, and then all of his older friends make fun of him for being okay with gay marriage.
That's great.
You know, he makes a very good point, though. He says these older generations, like, why are we mad at them? They're gonna die soon. And then when they die, or prejudices against things like gay marriage, that's just gonna die out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, do you know anybody of the new generation? And maybe it's because of where we live, but do you know any like 7-year-olds who are just being brainwashed into hating gay people?
Dude, I'm going to be honest. I don't know anybody who's against that.
Right.
Maybe I have a couple relatives who I don't
know anybody.
I don't think I maybe know one person who's against that. Maybe.
I couldn't say that I know many people, and I know that's because we live in a bubble, blah, blah, blah. But I do think that like as younger generations become more secular, because I hate to be a dick, I think religious leanings often dictate people's prejudices, especially when it comes to like gay marriage and gay rights and all of that. You know, the Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve thing. And as the younger generations are moving away from religion and becoming more secular on the whole, I think those prejudices are gonna die out. Hopefully,
I hope so. But that kind of stuff's cyclical too, though. Like the secular, like those religious waves, they still they can come back. You never know.
Maybe so.
But I see what you're saying. Especially here, at least, it feels like people can't be bothered by trying to tell other people how to live their lives, which seems like a solid point of view to me.
Yeah.
You know?
Dude, so the other thing I wanted to mention, there's a documentary on HBO right now called "All Be Gone in the Dark," and it's a true crime documentary, and it's about I think Patton Oswalt's late wife, McKenna. Hold on, what's her name? Melissa? Michelle McNamara. Michelle McNamara is the woman's name. She's an author, a sort of a citizen detective, a true crime, researcher who stumbled upon this insane case. And if you've watched the documentary, forgive me, but it was the Golden State rapist, the Golden State murder, the Golden State killer. And this guy got away with more rapes and murders than anyone. He like 50 rapes and 12 murders, and he's never been caught. And we've never heard of him.
Is this new or is this an older?
No, it happened in the 1970s.
No, I know that, but is this documentary new?
The documentary just came out. Yeah.
Okay. I've heard of this story before in general, though. So
it's a 5-part documentary about Michelle McNamara's research and her process into trying to unearth who this guy is and find him. The documentary is so scary that I have a hard time watching it.
Really?
But dude, it's because whoever the filmmaker, whoever the director was, creates these scenes, these sort of reimaginings of the attacks where there's the victims are providing their testimony, like the real victims are walking people through, whether it's on a recording or whatever. And as that's happening, the camera is like walking up to the door of a house and zooming in on the door handle.
Oh, wow.
And then like they have these crazy effects and spooky music.
It's great filmmaking.
I guess so. I guess so. But dude, my thought is, this story is so scary and so perverted in and of itself that I couldn't help but feel that to dress it up with these special effects was a little bit like Hollywoodizing an already terribly fucked up story.
Totally, I completely understand that note.
And I feel like with a documentary, I don't know. Who am I to say?
Dude,
but
no,
like,
totally. I hate sometimes when they do like little animated thing, like it goes different in different ways. But I totally agree. Sometimes you don't need that. Like the director took some liberty, or whoever made the film or the series. You know what I mean? I understand.
It's really scary, dude. It's so scary, and it's a very good story. It's very well researched. It's very well done. But I couldn't help but think, that they were sort of, I hate to say, glamorizing for their own benefit some of the victims' stories, and it sat poorly with me.
That's a bummer.
But I still suggest watching it. It's an insane story.
What's it called again?
All Be Gone in the Dark.
Okay. I'm going to check it out.
And what's amazing is, I'm a huge fan of Patton Oswalt. This is his wife who died out of the blue like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, that was sad.
Really tragic. And she was working on this story, and I haven't finished it yet. We still have like half of the final episode left, but I don't know. That was my thought on that.
Crazy, man.
Mm-hmm.
So, dude, you're at the country club. Is like the gym open there? You gonna try to get a workout in?
They did open the gym, and you got to sign up for specific sections of the gym. Right. So I had to sign up for the squat rack, and I went and did squats, and then I didn't know what else to do with the squat rack, so I just sat on my phone and screwed around as usual. But I did squat pretty well. So well, meaning so heavy, and that I am having a hard time lowering myself onto the toilet now.
Love it.
Do you ever get that? It's been like 4 days, and I can't sit on a toilet without using some kind of bar to lower me down.
Definitely. And I know that it was a good workout too. If like day 2, it hurts more than it did the day after.
I am walking as if I have chafing on my inner thighs. It is so painful and it's embarrassing. But the reason I was squatting so intensely was because I had a really good playlist going, and I was listening to this really good playlist using my Raycon E25 earbuds. You know about these?
I do, dude. They're sick.
Yeah, designed by Ray J. You know Ray J, right?
Sure do.
Yeah, I think he's the brother of Brandy, who went to prom with Kobe Bryant. A lot of celebrities.
Wow.
That I just
didn't even
listed.
know that.
Yeah, true story. So anyway, Ray J designed these earbuds, dude. They are the E25 earbuds from Raycon. They are so easy to put in your ear. They're just wireless. Fantastic little charging case that they come in. Very sleek, very subtle. You can't see them that well. And they just sit in your ear, and they are, honestly, dude, I've become a huge disciple of these earbuds. I don't know if I'll ever go back to a different kind. And I can't work out without them. Do you have like a pair of earbuds that you really like to work out with?
I just have my normal ones right now, but I think I'm gonna have to get them to send me a pair of these.
Yeah, we're gonna throw those out. We're gonna move you forward into the 21st century with the Raycon E25 earbuds. It's their newest earbud. It's fantastic, guys. Get your Raycon earbuds at buyraycon.com/oops. That's buyraycon.com/oops. You'll get 15% off the Raycon wireless earbuds. Buyraycon.com/oops.
Well, dude, all right. So you were talking about, the serial killer who got away with it and all this stuff. And it reminded me of something that I was thinking last night while I was sitting in my bed. And I suspect that you've had similar thoughts because we've talked about related topics, but never this specific topic. Has there ever been a time in your life where you're like, man, my life would be so much easier if this individual person was dead?
Wow.
It's a terrible thought, and I feel guilty thinking it, but I was just imagining my life without this one specific person in it and thinking about how much better my life would be.
Boy. It's a great thought. But I think my first answer is that I have people in my life who my life would have been easier if we'd never met.
Right.
But I don't know that once we met, if they had just died, that would have made my life easier.
Mm-hmm.
I have a person in mind, and I won't say who it was, but it was a coach of mine.
Gotcha.
That I really hated and really affected my life in a negative way. But I wish he had never been hired for the job where he ended up being my coach.
Right.
I don't know that I want him dead.
No, totally. And I don't want anyone dead either. I definitely don't.
But
it's
one of the
worth
reasons,
I'd rather have my life be inconvenient than have this person be dead specifically for my convenience.
Okay. But here's why I say what I say as a qualification to your statement. And the reason is that I have this kind of philosophy where if there's somebody in my life that I really don't like or that is really affecting me negatively, I don't see them.
Right.
So in order for me to want somebody in my life dead or to wish that they were dead, they would have to be a persistent, undeniable, unblockable force in my life.
Totally.
Who do you have in your life, without giving names, where the only solution is to have them killed?
So in order to make sure that I'm vague enough while still being specific enough to make this interesting, let me just say that it's nothing, for the most part, it's nothing personal. You know what I mean? It's just
Sounds pretty personal.
The outcome is potentially extraordinarily personal, but I don't, I would never actually hope harm on this person. But sometimes I'll be like, wow, that problem would be solved if this person just didn't exist. Yeah. That problem would be gone if this person wasn't here. Like it's a thought that I guiltily think of. And then I'm like, oh, wow, that would be awesome. But then I'm like, okay, there's no way to hope for that. Of course, that would be terrible. But I just think about how much easier, logistically speaking, my life would be if a certain person didn't exist.
Got it. Yeah, I think that's a totally fine fantasy. Listen, we talked about this before. Edgar Allan Poe famously wrote a poem called, I think it was called The Imp of the Perverse. And psychologists have often cited this poem, basically, which is that the human brain can envision the darkest scenarios happening without acting on them.
Right.
So, like, sometimes I'm standing on a subway platform. It's not hard for this thought to pop in my head. Oh, look, there's a person just to my left. I could push them gently and they'd get smushed by the train and I would kill them. I have that power.
Right.
What's holding me back?
Totally. That's they say that in Harry Potter too.
Yeah, like there's nothing stopping me from doing that other than myself.
Totally.
And what if my brain just malfunctioned for a second and I did that?
I know.
That person would be dead. I'd be going to jail, maybe being killed. I don't know.
I know.
So that's the imp of the perverse. We've all envisioned crazy, horrific scenarios, but what separates, I think, us from psychopaths is that we don't act on them.
Right, exactly. And that's the key, which is, and I think they say something about that in Harry Potter. It's like the actions kind of dictate who you are as opposed to whatever shit you're thinking. But dude, in relation to this, I do this all the time and I wish that I couldn't because it makes me so uncomfortable. I'll be sitting at a table with lovely people who are being so nice to me. And I play out the scenario in my head of what would happen if I said the most offensive possible thing to them. I think we've maybe talked about this a little bit, but like, do you ever do that?
I do. I find it hard to hold my tongue.
Wait, what do you mean? Like you actually end up saying it?
No, but once that collection of words pops into my head, it's all I can think about.
I know. And you're like, I could just say this right now. And you just think about how terrible their reaction would be to that and what they would do.
It's like you're sitting wearing a suicide bomb vest and nobody else knows. Nobody else at the table is aware that on the tip of your tongue sits terrorism.
Yeah, exactly.
that could ruin the dinner, ruin the family, the moment, everything.
Dude, I can't even watch when something like that happens in a show. Like when someone, like I remember on Mr. Robot, there's a scene where he like says the most piercingly offensive thing to this nice man and like insults him profoundly. And like, I couldn't even watch it. I had to turn it off.
That's why I couldn't watch that show about with the British woman who wrote the show, the comedian.
Oh, Mrs. Maisel?
No. It's like
a Fleabag.
Fleabag, yeah.
Yeah. There's a little of that.
The first episode, she goes on that date with that really sweet guy. He's got big front teeth. And she just says the most horrible shit to him, and I couldn't watch it.
I know. That's definitely an uncomfortable show. It's pretty good though, but yeah,
I've heard it's. Yeah, I couldn't watch it after that, but that I do admire her for sure. Dude, I think a lot of this comes to like narcissism, I've been thinking a lot about narcissism because I'm a narcissist. I'm aware of that. I think there are degrees of narcissism. I think a lot of comedians are inherently narcissists. We believe that what we have to say warrants an audience of people paying to listen to it. That in that right there, our business model is narcissistic.
Yeah, very true.
But
that was very clever what you just did there, dude. You gave like an institutional defense for your personality. Well,
I mean, sure, but I'm admitting that I am one of these people.
It's absolutely true.
It's also why I don't love hanging out with only comedians, because nobody ever listens. They just try to talk.
Yeah, it can be stressful.
And they don't laugh at each other's funny moments. They try to layer on top of. And
I know.
I don't like that.
That's old.
So, but narcissism, there was an article in Men's Health recently where this woman, this doctor, or she's a clinical psychologist who's often goes on like morning shows and daily talk shows and all that. And she had this theory of future faking.
Interesting. What's that?
Which is where in relationships, narcissists will offer things or hint at or promise things to their partner that they will never actually deliver on to keep the other person in the relationship.
Oh, interesting.
So it's like we'll have a nice house someday. We'll have a baby someday. I'm going to do this. I just need to get these things done first. And by telling the other person what they want to hear, but always having it off in the distance somewhere, you're faking a future and you're keeping them in the relationship. And that was this woman's theory, right? My way of looking at it, and maybe this is because I'm a narcissist, I might call that very same phenomenon hope.
100%. I was going to say the same thing.
Hope.
Yeah.
Like, I hope to be able to buy us a really nice house someday. I hope to have all these nice things. Once upon a time when you offered to your girlfriend or you whispered to your fiance, in bed, someday I'll buy you the beautiful house with the white picket fence and the yard for our kids to play soccer in. That was American. That was a dream. We were dreamers,
right?
Right. And maybe that the reason that doesn't materialize is because, your job, you get one day you're out working on the construction site and a block of cinder falls and shatters your tibia, and your workers' comp doesn't allow you to pay for the house, and your leg aches so much that you're relegated to a desk job that doesn't have the upward mobility, and all of a sudden the dreams that you've been promising your wife that you wanted to provide her are no longer a reality. Now, Does that because that guy's a fucking narcissist?
Definitely not.
Or is it because God didn't want him to be able to buy these nice things for his wife?
I did, totally. Absolutely. And it's a very good point. I mean, like, there's no kid, there's no teenager that will tell you that they're not going to be rich.
Absolutely.
It's not because they're narcissists. It's because they're hopeful and bright-eyed and having, those avenues are still open. The sky's the limit.
Dude, my girlfriend and I, one of our most romantic activities is to prop ourselves up in bed at night on our Tempur-Pedic pillows and to scroll Zillow on the same phone. And just talk about, the lighting in the various dream apartments that we're seeing. And I don't think that I am luring her in with these images of a life that we'll never have. I think it's just something we both enjoy doing.
Hilarious, dude. Very, very true. It's much worse in my opinion. And this is a thing that people have done to me so many times and seems like a much more narcissistic thing. When someone will promise me something because for two reasons, they want to show off, like they want an excuse to be able to brag. So that they offer you something in this bragging, and maybe it feels good to them to make you feel good, even though they're never going to deliver on that. And then they never do it. That is
Exactly.
way, 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 way worse.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
And much more narcissistic seeming than being like, one day we're going to have a big house, babe.
I agree. But I also think that, to your point, saying things that people want to hear isn't malicious unless they will never happen.
Right. But I think also there's this kind of like delusion with a quote unquote narcissistic person that makes them believe that even though it's extremely unlikely maybe to the average person, they believe that because they're so great that of course with this crazy thing they're saying it has value.
That may be true. But I call that dreaming. I think that's aspirational.
Maybe, but if you're like, I'm going to do this, and then would you like to do this in what I'm doing? And then that never is a thing that comes up again.
Say that
Is that
need you to
confusing?
explain
For example,
that,
all right, if I'm like, hey, Francis, I'm doing this TV show.
Yeah.
I would love for you to play one of the characters. Oh, wow. Thanks so much. Yeah, dude, no worries, man. I got you. And then this is the last we ever talk about it.
Yes.
You won't forget. You won't forget that I said that.
Right. And we've both had people in our lives who have done that to us. And that's false. To me, that's false promises, right?
Totally.
So offering a false promise when you have no intention of following through on it, even when you offer it, is, to me, that's bad. That's like you're a shitty person.
It's 100%.
But offering someone something and hope with the complete hope that it will come true, and then doing something to work towards that, and then having outside circumstances show that that was a limited vision, that maybe it was never realistic in the first place. That's just the way of life. I really think,
maybe it just
happens.
didn't work out how you hoped. Like, dude, I wonder what the alternative to that is. Like, you're looking at houses with your wife and you're like, listen, based on my personality and my limited education, I'm going to go ahead and say that this is extremely unlikely. Like, you know what I mean? I'm going to say that I'm not very upwardly mobile in the workplace, and we're going to have to go ahead and settle for a trailer.
I know.
That is not a conversation.
Just knowing myself as well as I do, and my tendency to, go to work, sit at my computer intending to work, but to end up watching Joe Rogan clips for 4 hours one after another. Like, I don't think that this house is within our price range.
Yeah, wow, man, that lady is very critical. Jesus, what a tough cookie.
Yeah. Dude, speaking of all this, though, we went and looked at some apartments yesterday.
Really? In Maine?
In Portland, Maine, yeah.
Wow.
And it was a fun exercise. We're realistic in the fact that we may not move to Maine. We're realistic that may not happen for a handful of years, maybe ever. The winds of our careers may blow us in different directions, back to New York or California or wherever, right?
Or knocking out your power.
Yeah, exactly.
Continue.
So there's so many variables. So the whole exercise was a fantasy, and thus, if you're starting from the standpoint of the fantastical, then you might as well look at apartments that are outrageous.
Sure.
And we selected 3 of Portland, Maine's 5 most expensive apartments to look at.
Oh, wow.
Which, by the way, is way lower than you would think.
It's probably less than you pay for your apartment in New York, right?
Well, some were, like, because we were looking at buying. We were looking at potentially buying. So,
Gotcha.
But even with the, the HOA fees and the mortgage rates and the taxes and all of that, there were a couple we looked at that would be less than the rent that we currently pay in New York City.
Crazy.
And so we're with this, buyer's agent or whatever, really nice guy, Will. And
shout out Will.
Yeah, Will's great. And we had decided this is how much fun we were having. We took some edibles before we went. So
Did you give one to Will?
No, I didn't know how cool Will was.
Gotcha.
But we ate them, and for the first apartment, we're asking very normal questions and all that. And we get to the second apartment, we start walking, and all of a sudden, we're holding hands and giggling and walking behind Will, and it's hitting us both at the same time. And it's just turning into this goofy date where we're being led around by some guy who's trying to make a living.
That's
and
great.
Bringing us to these sick apartments, and we're like, well, the fireplace isn't big enough. And, and then that would make us laugh. And dude, it was a really fun exercise. Then we went out to dinner and it was a great night. It was super fun.
Dude, I think my girlfriend would love that too. That sounds like a really fun idea.
I would suggest it because I think the veneer of marijuana allows you to kind of live and buy your own fantasy, even just for a night,
Dude, fucking good for you guys, man. I love the idea of making the best out of this and still having fun. I think that is an important thing for everyone listening to remember, that even though the same options aren't available to you, there are still options available. And quite frankly, maybe even your options have been narrowed down, and now maybe you can actually do that thing you've always talked about doing, like getting high and going to look at apartments. Like, how fucking fun is that, dude? Very, very cool.
Yeah. So I'd really suggest people do that. Although, if you show up with your eyes completely bloodshot red and you're not able to even walk, I don't think that, your agent's going to be very, very, very happy with you.
Yeah, be responsible with your dosage if you decide to do this. Well, dude, that reminds me. Well, I guess one last thing, unless you have other things you want to say. But I got a couple messages yesterday about the 3-week weight loss challenge, which I guess is something we briefly mentioned. And a couple of our listeners sort of took it to heart, which is great.
Oh, good.
I've been eating super healthy the last few days, so. Before I'm on this little trip I'm going on, I got to be shirtless quite often. I'm going to try to make a big dent. So I'll keep you guys posted. And I encourage you to hop on and get involved and see how well you can do in 3 weeks. And let us know. Send us your stories, your weight loss stories, or whatever fucking stories you have. We'd love to hear them.
Awesome. Very cool. How far in are we since you initially announced it?
I think we maybe talked about it last week, maybe the last episode. Last week, and
we got to get that. We got to figure that out
specifically. Well, I'll tell you this because it's the 5th of August. I have been eating well since Monday. So let's call this the 3rd day.
Okay, very cool.
So we'll see how it goes. And I'm with my girlfriend, so she will be able to report if I'm being delusional, if I think I've been being good, but I'm not. So I'm gonna rely on her, hopefully, to be the reporter of this as well to me. So I'll keep everybody posted.
Awesome. Great idea. I love it. And good luck to everyone out there in their shirtless demonstrations. We are Oops the Podcast as ever. I'm Francis. He's Giulio. Thanks guys so much. We'll see you tomorrow.
If you like that video, check out our channel where we have way more videos. I just don't know how to do this. This is unbelievable. If you like that video, we have way more videos on our channel. Please like and subscribe. Turn on notifications if you want to know when there are new ones. But if not, check them out and we appreciate it.
Oops.